really big news going on while you were sleeping. Breaking news. It came at 3:30 this morning with a Woj bomb. Free agent Paul George heading back east after agreeing to a 4-year, $212 million max contract with the 76ers.
Klay Thompson is on his way to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm told a 3-year, $50 million deal that'll include a player option. It's a sign and trade with the Warriors, with Charlotte, and Klay Thompson's 13-year career in Golden State, 4 championships, is now over.
What's up, everybody on YouTube? AJ Russ back to discuss another video, and today we're going to be talking about the biggest moves of NBA free agency. So guys, it's no question this has been an eventful offseason, an eventful free agency too for this upcoming 2024-25 season. Not as active in the first day as we thought it would be, but ultimately we saw Paul George sign with the Philadelphia 76ers early in the morning, the day after free agency. Then we saw Klay Thompson sign with the Dallas Mavericks via sign and trade. Different moves and trades also that you can kind of fit into this, like a DeJounte Murray going to the New Orleans Pelicans, Mikal Bridges being traded to the Knicks, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to the Magic. Just a lot of different moves, and we're going to talk about that in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference, and really how both will look next season with some of these different moves. I mentioned Paul George going to the Sixers. Are they the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics now in the Eastern Conference? You have the Knicks as well too, like I just mentioned with Mikal Bridges, that Nova lineup, and also just having a well-improved roster and with health. They'll be a threat in the East as well. And then shifting gears to the Western Conference, the Mavericks, they just made the finals, and now they add Klay Thompson and even a Najee Marshall, who will help them defensively. How will they stack up in the West next season? Of course, there will still be teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who drafted Rob Dillingham and also just signed Joe Ingles, which is a low-key, sneaky good signing. They lost Kyle Anderson to the Warriors, but bringing in Joe Ingles for some additional shooting, that'll help them. You still have the Nuggets, but the Nuggets, they need to make some improvements in my opinion. There's rumors that Nikola Jokic wants Westbrook to be on the roster. 2 triple-double kings, that would be cool. But with them losing KCP and also losing Bruce Brown last year, they need some more defensive versatility for sure. The Oklahoma City Thunder, in my opinion, have improved vastly, trading for Alex Caruso and then signing Isaiah Hartenstein from the Knicks. They're already the 1 seed. They're going to be even more lit next year. So there's just a lot to talk about from this free agency that we will dive into because it's compelling. And like I said in previous videos, the parity in the NBA right now is phenomenal. But before we get deeper into the video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. You know we post about here videos about sports, lifestyle, pop culture, NBA, NFL, Marvel, DC, cooking, YouTube shorts, things of that nature. And with that being said, let's talk even more about free agency. So I think the best way to organize this video is breaking down the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And we might as well start with the East. Kind of hinted at it in the intro. Obviously the Boston Celtics, they are still the favorites. Jason Tatum just signed that huge 5-year, $315 million contract extension, making him the highest paid player in the league. Then you look at them also extending Derek White. They're basically running back the same roster that they did this season into 2024-25. So they should still be the favorites in my estimation coming out of the East, but also favorites to repeat potentially. Of course, injuries and things of that nature do happen, but they're going to have some stiffer competition with the Sixers adding in Paul George. Not only Paul George, they were able to retain Kelly Oubre Jr. That was an underrated huge W for them because he was really good for them this past season. Also bringing in Eric Gordon. He could get hot. He is streaky at times, especially being 35 years old, almost 36. He's getting older, but he's still a really impactful player. And of course, he played with the Houston Rockets. Daryl Morey being the general manager there, gonna get one of his guys. So I think that's a pretty good signing as well. They also just signed Caleb Martin, and that's a really good signing in my opinion because that provides some more depth, some more insurance, and he's a really good defender. He can knock down the 3 at times, and that's a player who had the Heat culture, who's gonna be able to fit seamlessly in Philadelphia under Nick Nurse. So that only helps the Sixers for sure. Even drafting Jared McCain, we'll see how much playing time he gets, but he'll be able to add some good guard play off the bench. We'll see about that. But the Sixers, they'll definitely be lit. But at the end of the day, with the 76ers, it all hinges on the health of Joel Embiid. If he can stay healthy, if Paul George, even Paul George, if he can stay healthy too, because sometimes he deals with injuries. Tyrese Maxey, still young, not even close to being in his prime yet, only 23 years old. He's going to continue to improve. That little big 3 right there, they will make things interesting, not only against the Boston Celtics, but in terms of the Eastern Conference and the league in general, because that's real talent right there. Paul George, bringing him in on a 4-year, $212 million deal, that adds a player who can be a third option at the age of 34 years old, but doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands all the time to create and be impactful. He's great in catch and shoot scenarios. He's great off the dribble. Defensively, he still is very impactful as well, and he'll be able to add some versatility to that Philadelphia 76ers roster. So really the biggest threat to the Sixers, in my opinion, is health. Because if they are healthy, you can't just necessarily dismiss them against the Boston Celtics. I know that they are super stacked. They have a good bench, and also their three-point shooting is amazing. But the Sixers, Joel Embiid, I mean, they really could have beat the Knicks if he was healthy, in my opinion. Joel was dealing with that meniscus injury, and he still was playing slow, but he still averaged 30 points per game in that series. So, I mean, like, come on now. He's still like that, still can get buckets. If he's healthy, that's a game changer. But if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. You have to play the game on the court, not on paper, and that's really what I'm gonna say a lot throughout this video. We have to see the evidence that it'll work out on the court, but on paper, the Sixers, they definitely look like huge threats in the Eastern Conference, but we'll have to see going into next season. Now, of course, I'm gonna talk about teams like the Knicks and the Cavaliers, who also extended Donovan Mitchell to a 3-year, I believe $150 million contract extension. But I want to talk about the Orlando Magic because they made some pretty good moves that I like. They kept Gary Harris. They were able to sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You saw his impact, what he did with the Lakers in 2020, helping them win the title, and also in 2023 being a key part of that Denver Nuggets team when they won the championship. Not at all saying that the Magic are going to win the championship. They were a top 5 seed though this past season, so you shouldn't just sleep on them. They're going to be improved. Year 3 for Paolo Banchero. He was an all-star last year in his 2nd season, so he's going to continue to elevate his game. Be on the lookout for him. Franz Wagner, he's really talented as well. Really underrated in my opinion. He's still young too. Jalen Suggs, one of the best defensive guards in the league. He'll be going into his 4th season, so he's still young as well. There's a lot of talent there in Orlando. And still, you have people like Anthony Black. They also kept Jonathan Isaac too. That team is going to be nice. They have some youth. We saw what they were able to do against Cleveland. Pushed them to 7 games. I don't think that they're title contenders yet, but they're on the come up and they could surprise some teams. But the Magic, you could make the case for them being the 4th best team, maybe 5th. It just varies because you also have the Pacers still, who made a really good run in the conference finals. And also they didn't have Benedict Mathurin in the playoffs too. He could have made a huge impact as well. So I'm telling you, the Eastern Conference is lit, guys. I spoke about the Knicks, but talking about them even more, bringing in that Nova 4, that is pretty cool. Having Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and now Mikal Bridges hitting for him. Of course, that did cost him a lot in terms of draft capital, but it's worth it, I would say. Mikal Bridges, he can fit on any roster in the NBA. Extremely durable. His durability will be tested though, because you know how Tom Thibodeau plays his players, but that's a really great fit. And if they're all able to stay healthy, the whole Knicks team, and also having Julius Randle potentially, I don't know how that's going to be with the flow of the offense, because we know that Julius Randle, he can stop the offense at times, but he is still a really good player. So we'll just have to see that on the court when the time comes. The Knicks, they really are honestly a title contender in my opinion. Mikal Bridges, what he did in Phoenix, and we really can't count too much of what he did in Brooklyn. I know that they made the playoffs in 2023, and he had a pretty good run then, even though they lost in the first round, but I believe he averaged like 25 points in the playoffs in 2023. Mikal Bridges, what he does defensively and offensively, how he's been able to improve his game in terms of off the dribble, but also he's been a plug-and-play 3-point shooter. He's going to be a great fit, and it's going to be seamless in my opinion in New York, and they're going to have a really good, impactful team. I also talked about in my draft video that I made. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. They drafted Tyler Kolek, and now I'm sure he might spend some time in the G League, but he's a really good point guard, and honestly, he's NBA League ready right now. I think he's 23 years old. He's a potentially good guard off the bench that'll be able to help that offense too. You still have Mitchell Robinson. I don't think he has the highest basketball IQ in my opinion, but he is a really great defender. Just sometimes he doesn't make the best decisions, but if he's able to pick up for the loss of Isaiah Hartenstein, the Knicks, they'll be right in contention for sure to be in the conference finals, potentially try to even upset the Celtics to the NBA finals. But I will say, if the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Sixers are healthy, I do think that the conference finals will consist of finally Joel Embiid and the Sixers making it to the conference finals against the Celtics. But that's just my opinion, and there's a lot of ifs with that. But the Knicks, they are improved. A lot of people saw them as being a fringe team, not championship contending yet, but they were really good last season. Well, now adding in Mikal Bridges, they're for sure one of the 5 to 6 best teams in the league in my estimation. Also, another key factor I forgot to mention about the 76ers, they are bringing back Andre Drummond too. This will be his 2nd stint with them. He wasn't with them last season, he was with the Bulls, but that's another presence that'll be good for them, potentially if Joel Embiid misses time in the regular season, and hopefully not in the postseason. But he's been an all-star in the past. It's been a while, but he is a rebound machine, so he'll be able to help the Sixers as well off the bench, being able to provide some versatility. But the Eastern Conference, I mean, everybody talked about the West being stacked because it is. It's like the AFC, but the East, they're gonna be better next year for sure. I still think the Western Conference overall is better, but the top few teams, you can make a case for them winning the championship. Like I said, the Bucks, man, I don't know about them though. It's frustrating though. With Giannis, he was injured really the past 2 playoffs in 2023 and 2024, so we really didn't get to get a good look at Giannis and Dame this past season. Hopefully they're able to stay healthy and play great, and we'll see what they do. But I feel like low-key, if they lose in the first round especially, but even second round, Giannis could ask out, and that wouldn't be a crazy thing to predict because they just been stagnant. Yes, they won the championship in 2021, but ever since then they've underwhelmed in the postseason, and that's unfortunate. I believe they've only won 1 playoff round since then. That's super tough, honestly. And Dame, he's still a great player, don't get me wrong, but I believe he's about to be 34 years old later this month, so the time is ticking. Giannis turns 30 later this year as well. You have Brook Lopez, I believe he turns 36 this year. Chris Middleton, I believe that's one move they need to make potentially trying to trade him. He was impactful for that championship team and he played great, but he's been injured a lot these past few years and just hasn't really been the same. So if they can try to get that salary off their books and try to maybe trade for somebody at some point, that would make a huge difference. The Bucks, I really don't take them as serious as the Celtics especially, but also the Knicks and the Sixers. I mean, where are they going right now, guys? I'm just being honest. Giannis is one of the best players we've seen in terms of at the power forward position, but I'm looking at his competition that he'll have to face in his conference, and I really can't put that team up high. But we'll see what happens during the season and what moves potentially happen too, because it is only July right now. But in the Eastern Conference, especially after free agency, we have to look at the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Knicks as the three best teams in the Eastern Conference. The Magic, some of the biggest winners in free agency in general, along with the Sixers. In the Eastern Conference, they're making some moves, and it's looking good. Now in the Western Conference, I'm gonna go and say it right now. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they're the biggest winners of free agency in my opinion, and also what they did trading for Alex Caruso. Caruso can have a great impact for them. I know y'all remember the 2020 Lakers team in the bubble. He was great for them, not only offensively being able to make timely shots and threes and things of that nature, but defensively, a lockdown guard, an all NBA level defender. And really the past couple of seasons has been wasted on Chicago because they haven't really been contending for anything. They've been stuck in purgatory being a mid team that isn't great to contend, but also isn't bad enough to get a generational talent. But now Caruso going to the Thunder, a lot of people are saying that he could have a Andre Iguodala on the Warriors type of impact on that team. I won't even compare to that necessarily, but I do believe that changes things for the Thunder because they have him, they have Lou Dort, they have Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not even talking about offensively. Defensively, they put guards in jail for sure. So now having Caruso and Dort on the court potentially at times, you have to have some shooting too as well, because Dort, I mean, people are gonna live with his shot, let's be real. But defensively, they will put players in jail. I love that. Also, Isaiah Hartenstein is the big that the Oklahoma City Thunder was missing last season. Of course, they have Chet, who I believe is already an all-star caliber player right now, playing the 4, potentially sometimes from 5. He is really thin. But having Isaiah Hartenstein, he's a smart player as well. People underrate that. He's a good passer at the big man position and got his back for sure, making $29 million per year on a 3-year, $87 million deal. He's gonna be able to impact that roster and bring some big man versatility. And the Thunder were one of the youngest teams in the league last year, and they were the 1 seed last year too. And adding in those 2 pieces, they could potentially be the 1 seed again this upcoming season. And trust me, I know there was a lot of people who didn't take the Thunder as serious contenders last season, which I kind of thought was disrespectful in ways because they were saying stuff like the Lakers, they would kill them. And I know the Lakers swept them in the regular season series and they have more experience with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. But still, guys, that youthful energy that the Thunder have, they're real, their defense is real. Being a top 3 to 5 defense in the league, I believe, last season, they're only going to get better now. And if you didn't take them as serious contenders last season, for sure you have to this year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being one of the top 5 players in the league, in my opinion, especially after this season and really 2023 as well, took a huge leap. You cannot sleep on the Thunder at all. But moving on to another team in the Western Conference who were some big winners, for sure the Dallas Mavericks in my estimation. Yes, they traded Josh Green. Yes, Derrick Jones Jr. ended up signing with the Los Angeles Clippers, but you brought in Klay Thompson, one of the top 5 shooters of all time. I know that he didn't play great for the totality of last season, but if you look at after the All-Star break in 2024, he averaged 20 points per game and he shot 41% from 3 and 45% from the field, and that was his latest body of work. Everyone wants to talk about the 0 for 10 thing on Instagram and Twitter. You'll see that everywhere. Him shooting 0 for 10 in an elimination game. Yes, we all know that, but I think that he'll be able to provide something that the Dallas Mavericks didn't have in the finals and in the playoffs. It's some more scoring, some more shooting, and less pressure as well. You have Kyrie and Luka, who just went to the finals together. No one expected that team to do that. Adding in Klay Thompson as a reinforcement, adding in Najee Marshall, who was an underrated defender for the New Orleans Pelicans last year, the team is going to be better. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. Another year of Jaden Hardy, a second year for Derek Lively, who can potentially be an all-NBA defender type of player. We saw the great rookie season that he had, and bringing in Gafford, bringing in PJ Washington. That team is really humming, and they're going to continue to get better off the bat this season. Not necessarily just starting off from the All-Star break and on. From the jump, this team is going to be really good, God willing, with health. And Luka potentially could have an MVP type of season. I mean, Luka is knocking at the door in terms of being an MVP. He has been doing that every year of his career, basically. So we can't sleep on the Mavericks as well. We know there's the Timberwolves, we know there's the Nuggets, but in my opinion, the Mavs and the Thunder, you could potentially be looking at them two as the top seeds, but only time will tell. But talking about the Nuggets, I mentioned them a little bit earlier as well. They have to make some moves, guys. I know they have Jokic. I know they just extended Jamal Murray as well, which is huge. Of course, you have to do that. That's essentially your Robin to your Batman and Jokic. But guys, defensively, you need to add some more reinforcements, man, because losing KCP is huge. Losing Bruce Brown is huge. If you add in Westbrook, that'll provide some great punch off the bench. And also defensively, Westbrook has been really good these past 2 seasons when he was on the Clippers. But still, they need to make some more moves, in my opinion, to get back to where they were last season. Yes, they weren't far off. Yes, they were beating the Timberwolves by 20 points in Game 7 of the second round, but they blew that lead. We can say that they were close to making the conference finals, but ultimately they weren't, and they ended up losing. So they still have to make some steps. Saw Malone be a little bit petty after they lost that game, not owning up to it. But that team, they'll be back. They'll be back with a vengeance, I believe. Wouldn't be surprised if they made the finals. Wouldn't be surprised if they made the conference finals. You can't count out Jokic because he is arguably still the best player in the game. And the Timberwolves, of course. Not gonna lie, I'm a Luka Doncic fan, but when the conference finals started, I did believe that the Timberwolves were going to win, but I was wrong, thankfully, even though the Mavericks ended up losing in the finals. But still, the Timberwolves, they've gotten better. We're going to talk about the draft a little bit with Rob Dillingham going there. He's going to come off the bench, of course, right now because Mike Conley is still their point guard, and he just signed an extension. But Dillingham being there provides an element of scoring that the Timberwolves didn't have before off of the bench, and being able to have potential lineups with him and Anthony Edwards, and also with defensive versatility with McDaniel still being there. Yes, you lost Kyle Anderson, but I think that they'll be okay. I think in Joe Ingles, he's not the fastest player, but he is very intelligent. I believe 36 years old, been in the league for a while, a great veteran. He can shoot the piss out of the basketball, so that'll be good for them. He played a huge role on the Magic last season. You still have Cat, you still have Gobert, who unfortunately is unplayable at times in terms of guarding guards because he gets cooked. We saw that against the Mavericks, but he has won the Defensive Player of the Year multiple times for a reason. You just have to make sure you don't put him in a bad position, I believe, if you're Chris Finch and the Timberwolves coaching staff. Anthony Edwards, another year of him. He's going to be coming off of playing for the Olympic team too, playing with all those great players. I mean, we don't know the type of season that he could have. He could be an MVP candidate and can win an award next year too. So the Timberwolves, they're going to be lit as well. The Western Conference, like I always say, it's a gauntlet. It's tough always, but love seeing it. I'm not counting out teams necessarily like the Pelicans because I do like what they did with DeJounte Murray going in and trading for him. It does look like they're going to end up getting rid of Brandon Ingram though because he wants a contract extension and they're not willing to offer him the number that he wants. So be on the eye for that. There's just a ton of teams, guys. The Houston Rockets too, my hometown team, they're going to continue to get better. They drafted Reed Shepherd. They have a really young roster bringing in that continuity. I mean, they have a legit roster comprised of 8 young players that'll be impactful to their future, and they still have Fred VanVleet. They still have Dylan Brooks, Şengün coming back, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, and even Steven Adams that they added as well. This team in Houston, you cannot sleep on them. I believe that they will be a top 7 seed potentially in the Western Conference as well. Just there's so many teams, guys, and even the Warriors. We're going to talk about them as well because we mentioned Klay Thompson with the Mavericks, but you also have to talk about the other side with the Warriors losing Klay Thompson too. Now, talking about Klay, it is bittersweet seeing the end of a dynasty in an era with the Splash Brothers, with Klay, Draymond, and Steph being there. But it was inevitable. Klay Thompson felt disrespected by the Warriors. But I will say this, though. He didn't play in 2021 and the 2022 season. He still got paid $32 and $35 million. So that's another thing to look at, too. We can't necessarily just feel pity as well because he did get paid a good salary then. And honestly, they weren't willing to offer him that similar type of money. I can't blame the Warriors organization for doing that because he didn't play as great this past season as he did in other seasons. But like I said, after the All-Star break, he did average 20 points per game, so he was continuing to get his stride. But now, if you look at the Warriors roster, they have been rumored to want people like a Lauri Markkanen. I believe that would impact them greatly because he's an all-star caliber player for sure. Him and Draymond Green in the front court, that would be compelling and intriguing to say the least. Kyle Anderson coming there provides some wing versatility, I would say. He isn't the greatest shooter. He can knock down open threes, but he's a pretty good playmaker, so he'll be able to help, you know, be in that DHO type of role with Steph Curry getting him some better shot. And having Podziemski, I believe that's how you say his name. I probably butchered it a little bit. Going into his second season, he's continuing to get better. Jonathan Kuminga, after he had that conversation with Steve Kerr, he took off last season, so he should be an untouchable piece, in my opinion, going forward because his athleticism, his scoring confidence that he has gotten throughout the past few years in his young career, that's really good. And Moses Moody continuing to prove too. I mean, the Warriors team, they definitely have some good pieces, but do I necessarily think that they're like a top 5 seed in the West? Not necessarily. If they get Markkanen, then I would change my mind about that potentially being top 5 to 6 seed. But I don't know about the Warriors now, guys. I mean, I believe that ship has sailed, especially with Klay Thompson not being there anymore. Yes, he's not the same player, but I just don't necessarily see them winning another championship. That was a great run that they had, especially winning in 2022. But I don't know, Steph Curry, he's still playing at an all-time great level, being 36 years old, but his game doesn't rely on athleticism. It's pure skill. It's pure hard work. So I wouldn't count him out, but I don't necessarily count the Warriors as a contender, and that's being real. And also, another team that I don't count as contenders are the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's facts. Sorry, LeBron fans. Sorry, Laker fans. All things of that nature. Y'all have a good team, but in my opinion, not good enough. And they didn't make any moves necessarily to try to get another player that could take playmaking pressure off of LeBron James. They wanted Klay Thompson, and they lost that battle to the Dallas Mavericks. Really, LeBron wanted them to get DeJounte Murray last year to trade deadline, but that was unsuccessful. And I'm just really questioning how they're going to do next season. I mean, yeah, Anthony Davis played most of the season, I believe 76 games this year. Are we counting on that to happen happen again? I don't know about that. LeBron, he just signed a 2-year, $104 million contract extension. Could potentially be his last 2 years. We'll see. Also has a player option and a no trade clause, so that's intriguing too. I don't know. That's a huge question mark with the Lakers, guys. I mean, they drafted Bronny. That's really cool. I think that he's going to be a solid player in the league. Yes, there's nepotism, but I talked about that in the draft video. You can go on a tangent with that. You have your own opinion about if you think he deserved to be drafted or not, but he'll be solid for them. He's not necessarily going to play a lot for them. I believe he's going to spend a lot of time in the G League, but that Lakers team, I really just can't count them for real as being a team that can be a championship contender. They've only been above a top 6 or 7 seed once, and that was when they won the title in the bubble in 2020. Besides that, they've been lower than a 6-7 seed every year since 2010. That's insane. Another team that's a huge question mark though is the Phoenix Suns. And Devin Booker, one of my favorite players. I love him. I ain't gonna lie, he got cooked by Anthony Edwards in the playoffs, and Book was the best shooting guard in the league. Now it's Anthony Edwards. I don't even think that's a conversation to be had. He took that title, but with them adding in Mike Budenholzer as a coach, won in 2021 with the Bucks, I do believe that's a good thing. But I mean, you still have a team that's strung on their top 3 players in Book, Beal, and KD. KD's still playing at a all-time high level as well. Book just got into his prime. But Bradley Beal, he cannot stay healthy, and that's the thing that's holding them back in my opinion. I do believe if the Suns could go back, they shouldn't have made that trade, and they should try to get a point guard. That's what they should have did, and they still haven't got one this offseason yet. That could change potentially, but they need a point guard to organize that offense. You have Devin Booker playing point guard. That's not his natural position. Yes, he's a good playmaker, but he gets buckets. Same thing with KD. He can play point forward, but he gets buckets, and you need structure and organization and a real point guard to let that in. I wish they could try to get Malcolm Brogdon, who ended up getting traded again, but the cap space for that, it really wouldn't subside unless he were to sign on a vet minimum contract. But I don't know. The Suns are a huge question mark. I really don't know what to take for them either, and KD isn't getting any younger. But like I said, the Western Conference, I mean, it's tough, man, and really, we're at a good time though, because in the West, we don't necessarily know who's going to come out this next season. We didn't expect the Mavericks to come out this year. If you talked to me last season, talked to anybody last season, especially at the beginning of the season, and they said that the Mavericks are going to make the finals in 2024, no one would have thought that, and that's facts. Besides Mavericks fans, maybe, but that would have been some irrational confidence at the time. But as we saw in the season, they got better. So I'm just really looking forward to next season. But I do think that the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're one of the biggest winners. Same thing with the Sixers and even the Mavericks too. Just looking at next season, it's going to be really intriguing. And at the recording of this video, DeMar DeRozan hasn't signed anywhere yet. I don't think that he would necessarily fit with the Lakers because he isn't a perimeter shooter. He's straight mid-range. He can still average 20 points per game, but that doesn't necessarily fit what the Lakers are trying to do. Also, I forgot to mention this team though, the Los Angeles Clippers. Bro, you lost Paul George for nothing, because in that 2019 trade, we saw what they gave up, giving up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and all those picks that ended up being Jalen Williams, all that draft capital. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a top 5 player arguably in the league right now, essentially for nothing, because you didn't want to extend Paul George, but you extended Kawhi Leonard last season. And I understand he is a champion, but bro, whenever it matters most, he's not in the lineup. If he's healthy in the regular season, he's getting hurt in the playoffs. I hate to say it like this too, because it sucks to say it like that, but the evidence is that he ends up getting hurt at some point. He's a great player. Kawhi Leonard, he's a future Hall of Famer, but he's injury prone, and that's what it is. And Paul George now not being on your roster anymore, you lost him for nothing. I know that they didn't do anything collectively besides get to the conference finals, which they don't give rings for, but you still lost Paul George, who's one of the top 20 players in this league, for nothing. So that really sucks. Definitely the Paul George and Kawhi era was a failure. They re-signed James Harden to a 2-year, $70 million deal. I mean, he's a good playmaker for them, but I mean, guys, what are they really going to do? I know they're moving to the Intuit Dome. They have the new logos and all things like that, but I don't think the Clippers are necessarily going to be too lit either in the Western Conference. The West is tough, and I don't think that they're real contenders, but I could be wrong. Why he could end up playing in the regular season and postseason and being healthy, we could see that, but evidence is that that's not going to happen. And they added Kevin Porter Jr., they added Derrick Jones Jr. They still have some solid pieces, but I just can't go there with the Clippers, honestly.
The Sacramento Kings are also another team we have to still take into consideration, because they did make the playoffs in the 2022-23 season, and I know they missed it this past year, but like I've been saying, the West was super loaded. You still have De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray. They re-signed Malik Monk, and they've also been in discussions to try to potentially acquire either DeMar DeRozan or Brandon Ingram in a sign-and trade. So acquiring either of those two, that will certainly put them back in the mix as well. We'll have to stay tuned and see what happens, but we can't summarily dismiss Sacramento either.
Chris Paul signing to the San Antonio Spurs, that's going to be a huge impact for Victor Wembanyama. I mean, he already had a historic rookie season. It's going to take him to the next level and potentially be an MVP level player. Of course, the Spurs team, I do think they'll for sure be better. I mean, they can't be worse. They drafted Stephon Castle, adding in Chris Paul. It'll finally give Wemby some competent guard play. They still have Jeremy Sochan, Devin Vassell, and things of that nature. They just needed some structure, and Chris Paul is really going to help that young core. I feel like how he did in OKC in the 2019-20 season. So that'll
be an interesting fit, and I like that. It really does seem like Chris Paul is just trying to find a good fit for him, because it doesn't seem like at this point that he's going to contribute to a contender. We definitely don't see the Spurs being a contender in the next 2 years, maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, because Wemby is so young. He's only 20 years old. But I do believe that Chris Paul going to the Spurs is going to be beneficial for Chris Paul, for Wemby. Also seeing two great basketball minds and Chris Paul and Greg Popovich together, that'll be pretty cool to see, most definitely. This free agency has been very lit, guys, and let me know what y'all guys have thought about it too, because there's a lot of angles and a lot of different things to take from it, but those have been some of the biggest moves. So yeah, guys, let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. Who are the biggest winners of free agency? Who are some of the biggest losers? Because unfortunately that exists as well. But yeah, it's been intriguing. I believe that NBA free agency is an amazing thing. It's unmatched. NFL free agency has gotten better too, but there's nothing like NBA free agency in my opinion, in my estimation. So y'all let me know what y'all guys think in the comments down below. Did your teams make some great moves to potentially put them in great position to win? Y'all let me know. I appreciate you guys watching always. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for cooking videos, shorts, reels, things of that nature. More videos are on the way, guys. Like I said, this NBA free agency, it's been solid. Draft was solid. I should be in Las Vegas for the summer league, so I'm hoping that I'm able to get some type of content. We'll see about that. But yeah, guys, it's a beautiful time. Hope you're doing well, being blessed. You have purpose. You matter. God loves you. You are here for a reason. I love you. Y'all have a good one and stay blessed.